Today we're going to be doing this sketch of some birds. Today I'm working on a simple sketch for a custom piece. The customer requested that I do a sketch of it and send them a picture before I start working on the actual piece. So today we'll just be doing a fun sketch with some birds. We'll have 2 California quail, a male and a female, and we'll have a black-chinned hummingbird. So grab your pencils, grab your sketchbook, and grab a snack or something to drink, and we'll get started. So I've got my sketchbook, I've got some drawing supplies, and I've got my smoothie. I've got a ton of drawing supplies here, but I don't think I will use most of it. I think I'll just start with a mechanical pencil here to keep it simple, and maybe we'll come back to some of those other supplies. Okay, so here are reference photos. We've got the female quail, the male quail, and the black-chinned hummingbird. So I have a couple notes here. The quail are going to be 3 times larger than our hummingbird. These photos here are not proportional. We'll make it more proportional in our drawing. The male and female are roughly about the same size. The male is maybe a tiny bit larger, but their main differences are going to be in their coloring and stuff. So we'll get started with that. This is going to be a pretty simple sketch. So I had forgotten that I wanted to flip the male quail so he's facing this way, so I did that just now. The printer did leave a weird streak, but we can just ignore that. I'm thinking about doing like a rock or like a piece of wood or something that he's standing on. And then our female quail will be down here on the ground. For the body of the quail, we'll start by making like an egg shape. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And then we'll do like another egg, but like a smaller egg for his head. And then we'll connect his neck and chin. I'm just gonna make this part a little bit bigger here for his chest. And then we'll bring the back of his neck down and connect it to the rest of the egg. And I'm just gonna round out his stomach here a little bit. Okay, so we've got kind of like an angle here. Going to be a straight line, and then his tail isn't super long. He has a kind of short tail, and we'll just kind of round it off. It's almost like a little finger shape here. Okay, and then his legs, got one here and one here. And obviously I'm going to be changing how his toes are in the picture so that they're kind of gripping the rock that he's standing on. I'll give his toes little claws. comes across here. And we'll do some grass. Just kind of sketching in where we want things. So I'm thinking of doing like a little house or a little like farm house kind of in the background. But that's just for my final piece, so you don't have to have that in yours. This is just so I can get an idea of where I'm going with some of this. Okay. Clouds. And then our hummingbird can be right in here. So we'll start his body with a little egg shape, and it's going to be 3 times smaller than the quail. So he's going to be pretty tiny. And we'll do another egg shape for his head, with the pointy part facing forward. And then we'll do his neck coming down with a little bit of a curve in it. And then the front of his neck is going to be almost straight down. And then I'll curve out his chest a little bit more. And then we have almost a straight line coming back to his tail. And then his tail is going to come almost straight down. And he has a pretty thick tail. And his little feet are kind of hidden under his feathers here. So we'll just do those lines to indicate them. And then, oh, I forgot to erase the extra marks on my female quail, so I'll do that real quick. So we can erase the extra marks on the hummingbird. And then we'll give them a really long beak. That might be too long, but part of it will be hidden in a flower, so we don't have to worry about it. And then his eye. Kind of large compared to the rest of his head. It's got a kind of almond shape. And then his wing will make it almost blurry. We'll try to make it a little blurry, like he's flapping it. A little bit of action in here. And then you can see his other wings sticking out the other side a little bit. And we can just rub it to make it blurry and look like it's in motion. Now we can go back to our male and start adding in some details. He has like a little bib, like a black bib. It starts at the corner of his eye and kind of comes out and then around down to like the base of his neck. So I'm going to start with the inner circle of that. Okay. And then here's like the white part. He has this white part here. And then he has like a cool unibrow. It kind of starts where his feather is and then goes down over the eye. Just barely missing the other arc that we just did. But it's not completely straight, it's like a little bit of an ellipse. And then we have the other part of that. There. Okay. So, and then we have like his chest is really a bluish gray color, and where that meets some of the feathers on the back of his neck, we'll make a line just to indicate that. Just breaking it down into simple parts and sections. And then his chest has a little kind of like an arc here where the gray feathers meet the other more colorful feathers. And that's like a quarter of the way down or 1/3 of the way down his chest. Okay, and then he doesn't really have a specific line indicating where the wing starts, but there are some bigger feathers down here that we can kind of get into our drawing. And the female, she's pretty bland. She's got a clear line here indicating where the gray meets the other chest feathers, so we can do that. And then I'm gonna put a reference in just for myself where we've got like this brownish orange color that meets the grays and whites. And so I'm just gonna indicate that that's not where the wing starts, but I'm just indicating where those colors change. And then she's got like a little gray patch here. I think that's where the, like under her eye kind of off to the side. And then I'm just blocking in some other details that I see. Your details might look different, which is fine. Just do it however you feel like. And then the hummingbird, we've got this purple here. I'll make lines indicating where that's gonna be. And then the white feathers meeting the greenish feathers here. A line there. And I think that's it for him. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to the male and I'm gonna start walking in the darker areas. So his feather is really dark. He's got a dark line here. His eye, of course, is really dark. And then I'll just do some little lines indicating the direction of the feathers and indicating edges, light and dark areas, and just kind of taking my time with that. It doesn't have to be perfect, just enough so that you can understand where things are and so that it looks like a bird. Here I'm just kind of scribbling, indicating that there is color here, it's not just pure white, and just kind of blending it with some of my other colors. or some of my other shades. His front feathers here are pretty smooth on his chest, so I'll just do a light layer of pencil. So that's pretty smooth. It's not a whole lot of texture. And then the sunlight's kind of on the back here, so I'll just do the front feathers here a little bit darker. And then leave this more a pale white color. He's got a really dark part under his tail, so I'll do that. And then his feather over here is a little bit lighter colored. Okay, now I think I'll just leave this really simple here. And I'm gonna move on to his feet. He's got a bit of a shadow here on the top of his leg from his body covering the sunlight there, so he's got a shadow. And his other leg is pretty dark. And then the sun is shining on his toes here on his right foot. So we'll just keep those pretty light colored. And then for a female, I think in our reference photo, the light on her is coming from the other side, but we gotta keep it consistent. So we're still gonna say that the light is coming from this side, shining on the back and top of the head of the male, and it's gonna be shining on the front of her face and her chest a little bit. So we'll keep that light consistent with her as well. And she's pretty light colored. The only things that are really dark are her eyes, her beak, her front feather, and her tail. So I'll go ahead and do those. And then I'm just gonna go with dark and light as I see it. and how I think it should look. So the back of her head should be in shadow because the light is coming from the other direction, so I'm just going to darken that while still trying to keep her feathers and the texture pretty bland on her because you don't see as much of that on her. And then again with her legs, we'll just make sure that the dark side is gonna be on the right and on the bottom, so like underneath her toes a little bit, on the right side of her, or rather the back side of her legs, kind of where the light isn't gonna be shining on it. The most important part of any piece of art is the lighting. So as long as you have the lighting right, even if it's not super detailed, even if it's a little abstract, it'll still have a realistic look to it as long as the lighting is accurate. Okay. And we'll go on to our hummingbird. Our hummingbird's head is very dark colored. The whole head is pretty dark. So we'll go ahead and do the whole head pretty dark, and then the eye, I'll just make like extra dark. I'll just grind that pencil into the sketchbook there for the eye. So I want him to be really dark like that. And then his head, I'll just shade in. Still keeping in mind the lighting, I'm going to make the back of the head darker and then the front of the head a little bit lighter colored. And I'm going to indicate these purple feathers here. And then I'm going to leave this section completely blank because those feathers are pretty light colored. And I'll just darken his little toes a little bit. And the sides of these feathers here are pretty dark. And then it's a little bit lighter underneath. And there's our hummingbird. I think I'll try to keep him kind of simple. I'm gonna do his beak here. Okay. Now for our rocks. We'll will shade kind of on the right side and underneath the bird. So I'm going to shade in under his toes. Where his feet are, I'll shade that in. And then anything that's going to be on like the right side of the rock where the light isn't, I'll shade that in. And then I can kind of make up my own bumps and shape to the rest of this rock here. And then for grass, we'll do some just kind of dark scribbles down here at the base of the rock. And we'll do some taller pieces of grass, and I'll put a little bit of like seed on the end of the blade of grass. Just darkening her toes a little bit so you can see where they're at. And I'm going to do some lighter, thinner blades of grass that are almost like behind the rock and kind of further away, so they're lighter colored. Just going to add a tiny bit of darker coloring to the bird here. So some lighter colors of grass, or lighter shades of grass rather, in the background here. And then we'll do like more pressure and darker for what's closer up. I'm gonna add a little bit of color up here to the sky, and I'll do like a little barn house here. Do like a little windmill. I'll go ahead and just do a flower. So hummingbirds normally drink from flowers that have a longer tubular shape with like an open front, so that's what I'm doing, and then I'm doing a few leaves. When I do leaves, I normally do kind of like an almond shape, and then do a line just going down the center. It's super simple. So we'll make some foliage here and some taller grasses just to bring the effect of the plant that's coming up the side. I think this plant is starting to look a little bit like honeysuckle. I don't know if you've ever seen honeysuckle, but it's red flowers that are kind of, they have that tubular shape with an open front. Okay, so I think it's looking pretty good. Hopefully you enjoyed drawing those birds as much as I did, and hopefully you have a nice drawing in your sketchbook. Let me know how it turned out in the comments and what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching.